The New York Post had an excellent article that we talked about yesterday where Jim Ryan talked about how gamers' choices are going to disappear should the Activision Blizzard deal go through. While at the same time, Call of Duty was offered to stay on PlayStation for 10 years in a contract that was presented to Sony. That was offered to them 10 days ago before that was recorded. There was a lot more in that article that I wanted to go over today, including the idea that the FTC could be gearing up for a lawsuit to stop this deal. Let's talk about what's going on right now. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when my content goes live. I really appreciate it when you do that. Thank you so much for watching. So we're going to dive right in and talk about the big bullet points. I can't make the text any larger, so hopefully you can read it. If not, I apologize. You'll just have to listen to my mouth words. Basically, in recent weeks, Microsoft has accused Sony, its chief video game rival, of misleading regulators. Its lawyers have showed off game consoles, including an Xbox, to British officials, and the president of a major union that Microsoft wooed has spoken up on the company's behalf to the FTC. These actions are part of a campaign by Microsoft to counter intensifying scrutiny of its $69 billion acquisition of video game publisher Activision Blizzard, the largest consumer technology deal since AOL bought Time Warner 2 decades ago, and far bigger than Elon Musk's recent $44 billion buyout of Twitter. The fact that they put Elon Musk's purchase price of Twitter on there, which was at $44 billion, really goes to show you just how expensive this merger is. Elon Musk bought the entirety of Twitter for $44 billion, and that's been a huge story lately. But then you see that Microsoft is actually spending $69 billion for Activision Blizzard. It's a huge story that is being looked at very closely by regulators, and it has everybody talking about it. I've made so many videos about the Activision Blizzard deal since the beginning. My initial reaction was everything would be exclusive, but Microsoft has a much more interesting business plan than just making every game exclusive. They want to let their companies keep those games and then, or their competitors keep those games and then make money off of their competitors. Seems smart to me. Not what I expected, but they're doing that. And they point out here that that is part of a campaign. The 10-year offer to Sony is part of trying to say, hey, look, we're really willing to play ball here. But let's keep talking about what the New York Times wrote. Whether Microsoft whoa. Okay, this I hate it when I have to read it in PDF form. If this deal had happened 4 years ago, this would hardly be of any interest, Brad Smith, Microsoft's president, said in an interview. If one cannot do something easy, then we'll all know you can't do something hard. There's been a lot of scrutiny lately that I've seen online of regulatory bodies preventing businesses from being able to do mergers that are large or anything of the like. It's been very interesting to watch these things sort of unfold, where Apple's being said, sure, you can keep whoever you want off of your platform, you can do whatever you want, but a company like Microsoft isn't able to buy Activision Blizzard. It definitely sends a message to big tech, which the FTC is a little bit concerned about, that we're going to make it a lot harder for you to do anything. And I think there's some reasonable concerns, like with Meta and data collection and things that have been happening over the years, that have given them pause to that in that respect. Anyway, continuing on. Mr. Smith said Microsoft was open to formally agreeing to place limits on its business practices to resolve antitrust concerns, but the United States and other countries increasingly see such promises as insufficient unless a company spins off part of its business. Microsoft's deal for Activision will demonstrate whether tech giants can navigate the new environment, said William E. Kovacic, a former FTC chairman. It's a fundamental test. So basically what they are calling out is the environment has changed in terms of what big tech is able to get away with, not get away with, but allowed to do within the market. And Microsoft thought this would be a little bit easier than it has been. The road ahead appears long. Of the 16 governments reviewing the deal, just Saudi Arabia and Brazil have approved it. And Brazil approved it with no restrictions whatsoever. So after hearing from everybody, Brazil just approved with no restrictions. Saudi Arabia didn't even seem to investigate it. They were just like, sure, whatever. They didn't seem to really care. And Microsoft has said that it expected Serbia to approve the deal shortly. The most crucial regulators appear skeptical of the tech giants. The FTC is led by Lina Khan, a legal scholar and notable critic of Amazon. The European Commission has fined Google for violating antitrust rules and has opened an investigation into Microsoft's cloud service. In Britain, the Competition and Markets Authority has become increasingly hostile to corporate deals. In a statement, the Competition and Markets Authority said it would release its findings on the deal in the new year. The European Commission said its investigation is ongoing. The FTC declined to comment on the deal. And if you want to see, I'll link to I did the big read about the CWA's finding. It's a very, very long document, but I can link to that right now so that you can go check that out if you like, and then open it up in another tab or whatever you want to do. Check it out later, and it will be the video at the end also. But continuing on, the Activision deal, oh boy. When Microsoft closed its $26 billion purchase of the professional networking service LinkedIn in 2016, at the time its largest acquisition, the deal required just 6 government approvals. The Activision deal is substantially more resource intensive, Mr. Smith said. Think about that. They were able to buy LinkedIn, the professional networking service that a lot of us use when, if you're ever looking for a new job or you're browsing the market or you're trying to hire people, you'll often go to their LinkedIn. I look at people's LinkedIn often for research purposes, or if I am looking to bring somebody on in a contract role, for example, at my full-time job. And they were able to purchase that and nobody cared. The thing that everybody uses to hire people, Sony uses that to hire developers, for example, and Microsoft owns it. That had no sort of investigation. It just kind of went through and nobody cared. But this Activision deal is in a whole different ballpark. Activision also needs the sale to go through. It was distressed a year ago with a falling share price as it dealt with revelations of sexual misconduct and worker unrest. Bobby Kotick, Activision's chief executive, said in an interview that he had a high degree of confidence that the regulators will be thoughtful about evaluating the industry. He added, "I have no reason to believe that we won't ultimately be successful in the transaction." I believe I recorded that video already, but it's just surprising to see how it has been unfolding. This stupid document. The way it just like snaps to another page, and it's very jarring, and it makes it very hard for me to follow where I was at in the story. I don't like PDFs. Anyway, continuing on. This was very interesting. In June, Microsoft hammered out an agreement with the CWA promising not to oppose unionization at Activision. The negotiations involved more lawyers than a lawyer convention, Chris Shelton, the union's president, said in an interview. The concessions turned the union into supporters of the deal. Last month, Mr. Shelton met with Ms. Khan and praised Microsoft's commitment to remain neutral in union campaigns and said the deal should be approved. The FTC told me a lot of companies promise a lot of things, then they never keep their promises, he recalled. He said they told the agency that the agreement was rock solid and in writing. The FTC declined to comment. So the FTC heard from this person and they basically said, we don't believe anything that they say ever. Like they lie all the time. Don't believe them. And he's like, we have it in writing. So the FTC certainly seems to be really looking at this closely. And one of those reasons are because of what has happened on Capitol Hill, I have to imagine. Sony was not appeased. In filings in Brazil, the company argued that Call of Duty was such a powerful gaming franchise that Microsoft could use it to hurt rivals. It hired a consulting firm to set up meetings on Capitol Hill, 2 people familiar with the matter said, and its arguments were repeatedly cited in a decision by Britain's regulator in September to pursue a deeper investigation. So Sony has gone out of its way to go to Capitol Hill and make their case against the merger happening. They really do not want this to go through, which to me, this type of strategy from Jim Ryan or Sony makes sense. Going to Capitol Hill saying, we don't want this to go through. Here's why we don't want it to go through. The public statements from Jim Ryan are a little bit stranger in my opinion, because the reason I don't like what Jim Ryan is saying is because he keeps positioning PlayStation as weak. And I just feel like that is very, what's the right word? Not genuine. It's not a genuine statement from Sony, and they should adjust how they make those statements. He's basically saying they're going to die without Call of Duty, and it's just not true. Even if you look at their financials, there's no truth in that. In a statement, Jim Ryan, the chief executive of Sony Interactive Entertainment, said it was not true that his company had misled regulators. He said that Microsoft was a tech giant with a long history of dominating industries, and that it is likely that the choices gamers have today will disappear if this deal goes ahead. He continues to ham it up and make it seem like just everything will be awful if this deal goes through. And I just don't see it. The Bethesda deal went through and everything seems mostly fine. You can still play upcoming Bethesda games that have decided to go exclusive on the Xbox platform. And it sounds like Elder Scrolls and Fallout will be exclusive, but cross-platform games and games that were founded and built as cross-platform games like ESO and Fallout 76 have remained as such. I would actually like it if Fallout 76 implemented some sort of cross-save. That would be wonderful, but I wonder if part of that is Sony blocking any sort of cross-play between platforms. They have done that for years. Anyway, that's a bit of an aside. Microsoft said that on November 11th, it offered Sony a 10-year deal to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony declined to comment on the offer. So part of their campaign is doing things like offering 10 years of Call of Duty to PlayStation. They can't offer it forever. They don't know what's going to happen with the franchise, but that is what they said. Last month, Mr. Spencer and other Microsoft executives brought an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a Nintendo Switch and other devices to a meeting with regulators in London where they showed off Call of Duty and other games to illustrate a dynamic market, people familiar with the visit said. So they've been also lobbying, as expected, because they're the ones under investigation. But the end part is about the FTC. And this is where you really get into the interesting stuff that the New York Times has uncovered here. In the United States, more than 10 staff members at the FTC, it's at the bottom here, are reviewing the deal. A person with knowledge of the agency said they interviewed executives, including Mr. Nadella and Mr. Smith, in the late summer and fall. And in a sign that the FTC may be building a legal challenge to the deal, two people said it recently asked for other companies about offering sworn statements to lay out their concerns. So you read that closing statement, you're like, the FTC is going to stop the deal. Like, they're just not going to make it happen. Thankfully, and I'm going to link to the full conversation in the post below, but Hoeg Law made a whole video about this. He's a lawyer. He's looked at these mergers before. We've had him on the show before, and it's always great to have his insight on these situations. I find it a bit fascinating to hear from somebody who knows way more. Here's what can actually happen. The FTC can only sue if they find that it's illegal, basically, right? 10 years that has been offered to Sony is to avoid this problem with the FTC. The FTC can only sue if they find it's illegal, and I believe that is because of something called the Clayton Act, which I'm not familiar with, but you can watch Hoeg's video where he discusses it. Are they going to sue? Probably not, but what's more likely going to happen is they're going to say, we need more time than the 30 days, and if you don't give us more time, we will sue. So they are preparing to sue so that they have the ability to find something wrong with the deal and then force Microsoft to make a consent decree to do things like keep Call of Duty on PlayStation and whatever else they may have an issue with. I don't think the deal gets canceled. I think we are getting closer to the end, and that's why all of these companies are going into phase 2, doing deeper investigations and discussing what the merger means in more detail. But I would love to hear what you think, and hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when I post next. I'm going to link at the end of the video to the whole CWA video that I made where we went over their concerns, which are largely parroting what Sony has said. So be sure to check that out. And thank you to all the members for supporting me making all of these videos about the Call of Duty Activision deal. I really do appreciate it very much. If you would like to become a member, you can do so by clicking that join button. Thank you, everybody. Check out that CWA thing because it's been absolutely fascinating to see what happened in Brazil and then what happened with the CWA, which is all the stuff we already know Sony has asked them to talk about. That's all I have for this one. I'll catch you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody. Good job on this New York Times piece is great, by the way. So kudos to them. Bye for now.